Before I start going over this chapter 5, I just want to say some things. I know that I've done 5 videos. One was sort of an introduction, and then the 4 chapters of the book that I've gone through already. I haven't looked at this story in over a year. So as I'm reading through some of this and sharing it with you, and you see me tearing up and crying, I've come to reflect on I've been in a place of survival for 4 years. And so, yes, I wrote about this story. Yes, I was able to put how it was making me feel when I was in there, but I wasn't able to process it because I didn't know what was going to happen to me. So as I'm telling this story, it really is healing me. And I'm scared. And there's a part of me that's thankful. There's this part of me that is in a lot of pain and a lot of darkness. And there's this other part of me that I feel safe and I feel happy and that this is where I need to be right now. So there's a lot of stuff mixed up, and this is very hard for me. So for those of you that are taking your time and you're watching these videos and then you're giving me feedback, I really appreciate it. So I'm going to go on into this next chapter, and it's the first day of court, my first hearing since I had been arrested almost 2 days prior. And yeah, bear with me because this is hard. So after I hung up the phone, I was standing here, my cellmate. A damn homeless bitch went to the cell, took my peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I know it was her. And I said, oh, wow, I don't know what to tell you. Well, she does this stuff on purpose in order to get locked up because she doesn't have anywhere to live and she's on the streets. I felt sorry for both of them. I felt sorry for the homeless woman because in order to get food, she felt stealing was her only option. And then for my cellmate who had been at court all day and was coming into the dorm starving. And then I thought about how we live in a nation where 80 billion pounds of food is being wasted each year. There's no reason why anybody should be going hungry. There should be no reason for lack of food. And I laid my mat. I laid down on my mat. I covered myself up with a blanket. And I thought about my court hearing that was going to be on the next day. And I had a dream, and it was so vivid. But it was also like a hallucination. That my granddad, he was standing in front of me and he was screaming, you just took and stole everything I worked for. And I woke up, I came out to him and I was panicked. I was in a sweat, my heart was racing. And then I just started having to talk myself back out of it. That wasn't a dream. That's not what you saw. That granddad wanted you to have so much in return for taking care of him 24/7 last year of his life. The door unlocked and my cellmate was leaving with her things. I didn't even ask where she was going. I just knew that I needed to get some sleep because 4 a.m. Would be full of bright lights, loud yelling, and shitty food. So I fell back asleep without any hesitation. And then 4 a.m., click, click, click. The steel door was ready to be open. The bright UV lights were flipped on and the yelling started. Ladies, breakfast. Get your breakfast, get back to the cell. You have court in 15 minutes. I ate as much as I could that morning, hoping that as soon as I signed that waiver, Georgia would be there to pick me up, or I'd be on a flight back home. I walked out of my cell. I threw my trash away from breakfast, and I went down the stairs and followed the lead with the other inmates that were lining up against the wall. And most of them knew the drill. There were about 7 of us going to court that morning. I stood in line, looking at the women in front of me, and then I turned around to look at the women behind me, and I just heard, "Keep facing the front, don't look back at each other." And my anxiety was so bad from not knowing what all to expect from a court appearance, how it worked. Another deputy showed up and led us outside of the building and had us stay in a straight line. It was almost 5 a.m. at that point, and it was still dark outside. And that darkness outside was a reminder of the darkness that was in my soul. And with every sound of that flip-flop hitting that concrete ground and walkway, I was reminded again about how real this was. And I stopped in my thoughts, and I just prayed, "Spirit, please bring me home and back to the light again." And I didn't even really know what that meant at the time, but where I'm at now spiritually, and I look back at that prayer and that one sentence, "Spirit, please bring me home and back to the light again." That home is within. And my home had been covered in nothing but darkness and anger and disconnect from God. Anyway, we were led into the same building where I was booked 2 nights before. And as I walked by that area where I was stripped down, I wondered if my belongings were anywhere near me. And I missed my clothes, I missed my wallet, I missed my cell phone. Those are the things I was thinking. And then I hoped that I didn't get hungry and pass out from going all day without food. The walk seemed a lot quicker than when I first came in there. That was more my thinking. And everyone around me seemed sick and hungover. There were 3 large holding cells to the right as we were walking into the booking dorm, I guess. And I could see other women already waiting when we were walking by. And the deputy was like, "Okay, ladies, get up against the wall and get in a straight line. When your name is called, go into this cell immediately. Gomez, Norris, Jenkins, Weeks, that's me." I walked past the male deputy holding a sheet of paper with a list of names, and he was highlighting each name as they were called and walking by him into the cell. There were women laying on a dirty, scuffed up concrete floor, and I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. Nothing that could have prepared me or warned me for this scene. And it was like a small maze from the door to a concrete bench that was attached to the cinder block walls. And it was just a maze of people, and I sat down quickly and I looked around at my surroundings, and in one corner there was a stainless steel toilet and sink combo, just like what was in my holding cell. And then I began counting all the inmates in my head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 16, 21, 23. The inmates were either hyped up, and they'd obviously been in jail for a while, and the ones that were on the floor in fetal positions, shaking, trying to sleep, were coming off drugs. And had only been there like a day or two, so they were what they called dope sick. And across the cell, there was another long bench that was attached to the other side of the cell. And there was just loud women. They were showing off to get attention to anybody who would listen. And one of the women, she had like shoulder length hair, a lot of eyeliner, and a lot of energy. And she's just yelling, "What are you in here for?" to one of the inmates. And the inmate said, "I took a beer from the store and they gave me a felony charge." And, "Are you fucking serious? Fuck these motherfucking cops. Anyone know why that girl over there looks like a dude and in the cell alone?" And then one of the inmates was like, "Yes, she said that she's going through a sex change and she has a dick, so they have to keep her away from us." Well, what the fuck? I wish I had a dick. Having a penis and using both hands with a sliding motion. And then she was just yelling out, "Bitch, suck my fucking dick." And some of the inmates were laughing at her. And the cells was made from all this cinder blocks, concrete. And so it was just the echoing in that small space was just piercing my ears. I couldn't find any humor in it, and I didn't think it was funny. But I also couldn't understand like where it was all coming from. I mean, I do now, but at the time I could not understand the behavior and the filthy talk. And I was still just so sleepy from the environment that was disrupting any of the peace that I had left. And I could just see missing souls. When I looked in these inmates' eyes, I could see a part of their soul was missing. And I could, I could start to have some empathy for them. I knew that I had to get out of there that day. And I knew that when I got out of there, I'd never forget what I saw. And I guess I've put it back somewhere because I had really forgotten about it till I'm sitting here talking to you right now. And then to the left of me, this girl's sitting, and she said, "Hey, did you kill somebody?" And I looked over at her and I said, "No, why?" She said, "You're nice. And usually real nice people are in here. They've killed somebody." Well, I almost wanted to laugh. I did give her a smirk, and, I said I would never kill anyone. And she said, "Well, I'm coming off meth right now. Can you please let me just lay in your lap?" And this is when I started to think about, the series, The Orange is the New Black, and I didn't know what else she was going to ask me to do. But I didn't want to get my ass kicked. And I was like, "Yeah, that's fine." So she laid her head on the edge of my thigh and started asking questions. And then I started asking her questions about the process of court and how it all worked. And she was explaining it to me. And she said, "Court starts at 8. They'll usually get us out of here and on a bus by 7. And they're going to cuff us by 2s to each other." She said, "So, and she said, if you get there early appearance is probably around 11, and then you can get back here." She said, just stay next to me and I won't let anybody hurt you." I was like, shit, here we go again. A jail buddy that I don't want. And I thought, I have a girlfriend on the outside. I don't need one in here. And then on the floor, just about 2 feet away from me, there was a woman, and she was like missing half of her index finger. And there was half of a ring that was stabbing in both sides of her infected finger. So like half of the ring was missing. And the other half was completely embedded in her finger, and it was so infected. It was oozing. And then some of the other inmates started noticing her, and like, "Hey, bitch, what the fuck happened to your finger? It looks like a sausage." And she's like, my ring ate it. And then to the left of her was like this bigger woman, and she was on the floor. And she had been snoring on and off during the conversations, and she could barely raise her head and talk. But she finally turned to that inmate that was just being so loud and full of energy, and she said, will you please shut the fuck up? She said, I'm trying to fucking sleep. And here we go. What the fuck? Who are you talking to, bitch? I'll beat your ass right now. And then I'm just sitting here, just waiting. And then a female deputy walks over to the door, peeks her head in the window to see what was going on, and then they both just shut up immediately. And there wasn't, again, here I am in another cell. There's no clock. You can't see a clock. You don't know what time it is. And the louder inmate went over to the toilet, and she pulled some eyeliner out of her maxi pad. And everyone knew that this was contraband. And if you got caught doing something like that, it was another charge. And so she took the eyeliner, started doing her eyes, and she said, hey, make sure my eyes look good for the judge. Which was, it's just sad. And you had to wait 2 hours in a cell where there wasn't enough space for everybody to sit down. So if you weren't on a space in a space sitting, then you were laying on the floor. You were sitting on the floor. You were standing. So all of a sudden, like half the cell stood up, and they're all chanting, the bus is here, the bus is here. So I looked through the window, and that like faced the hall, and these guards came in with this like a laundry cart, and then hanging over the side of the carts were these chains that they used to connect the inmates together. The door opened, and the women next to me were whispering. And then when the deputy said, okay, when I call your name, pair up with the person that I call next to you. So it was like Weeks, Gomez. And so we had to line up next to each other against the wall. And Gomez was next to me, and she had this completely shaved head down to the scalp. And she had spent the whole morning in a fetal position on the floor, just tapping the top of her head. Okay, so hands up against the wall where we can see them. Hand me your left hand. Yes, sir. My left hand was cuffed to the belt made of chains. So it was like it was just like it was a chain belt. And then my right one was cuffed to the belt of Gomez. And her left hand was cuffed to my belt. And so we were chained together, cuffed together. And we walked through the thick steel doors and waited for the instructions to load this bus that was going to take us to downtown San Diego to court. Inmate on the left, walk up the bus first, and then take a seat and don't get up. The bus was long, and it had dark, blacked out tinted windows. Once I was on the bus, I saw a whole first part of the section of the bus when you walk on there has several cages. And they put these inmates that have threatened themselves or threatened others inside these cages like an animal. Again, it was something that I could not have been prepared to see. And all the upholstery was ripped off the seats, just like on the transport van to the jail 2 days prior. And then the woman in front of me had been pacing the floor, she had this yellow envelope in her hand. And she said that the story was that while she was in a women's program, her daughter overdosed on opiates and died. And she was not allowed to have any contact with her husband while she was in the program. And they were both trying to grieve their daughter, so she wrote him And then she felt bad for breaking the rules. So she told someone that she had written her husband, and she was taken out of the program and given another felony charge. And the crazy thing, y'all, here's all these messed up people. They're sitting here and they start praying for each other. So it's like me, the inmate I'm chained to, and then the girl that had all that energy that I was talking about earlier that pulled the eyeliner from her maxi pad. She's changed to this woman that's, has another felony charge and getting kicked out of the program. And everybody's, they're praying for each other. And this woman full of energy, I mean, she just started to sweat. And her face is getting all red. And I'm like, I mean, is there a demon about to shoot out of her body? Like, what's going on? And she looked right at me. And she said, God says you're going to be okay. That was my first message. And I began to cry. And I said, thank you for telling me that. I leaned back against my seat as far as I could. And I just held on to that message. And I had to trust that God had given me a message. And I just watched out the windows as we drove the interstate in downtown San Diego. I saw fast food chains, shopping malls, and other places that were a lot better than jail. And it was just making me so hungry. Like I was seeing pizza places and anything, I'm telling you. I would have, stuff that I won't eat right now, I would have eaten. The bus pulls into a sally port at the courthouse. And then we were ordered to sit there until the guards walked us off the bus.